Hello, Georgia Christian Business Network members, sponsors, and friends. We are here for Wellness Wednesday. We're so glad that you're here with us today. We have Christian over here in the Zoom with us. If you want to join in the Zoom, let us know. Come over. We'll let you in. But you just have to have a name. You have to have your name on your screen. And we have Pamela and Jessica over here as well. They're going to be presenting today from Intentionally Pursue Peace, I think is what we're talking about. If not, they'll correct me. And we're just so glad that you're here today. I'm going to turn it over to the ladies and make sure that if you're in the Facebook side and you have questions, this is your time. This is your time to grow. This is your time to ask questions of professionals who have seen things, been through things, and can help you pursue your peace. So if you have any questions, just let us know. And ladies, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, I'm going to ask Miss Jessica to introduce herself, and then I'll introduce myself, and we'll get started.
Sure. I'm Jessica Banner. I have a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. I've been counseling for almost 17 years now. It's hard to believe. Spent about 10 of that working in a psychiatric hospital doing PHP and IOP care, doing adult and adolescent psychiatric and substance abuse work. Also ran our VA contract when we were partnered with the Veterans Affairs. Did a little bit of management and helping with the kids department. Then I transitioned into professional pastoral counseling, where I predominantly focus on trauma resolution counseling, have helped train many in the church for being trauma informed and working on a couple writing projects. So just hands in lots of pots. So.
Irons and lots of fires.
Mm.
And I'm Pamela Bridgman Bartell. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I also hold credentials as a certified master addictions counselor, a certified clinical trauma professional. I'm an ordained minister and a United States Air Force veteran. I own a healing journey counseling and consultation here in Cartersville, Georgia, where I provide trauma-informed care for individuals who are challenged with emotional and mood disorder, emotional abuse, instability. Emily, you talked today. Emotional instability, mood disorders, substance use disorders, and relationship issues. I have been providing compassionate care since 1976. And like Lisa said, we are under the umbrella of overcoming stress in the workplace. We are talking about intentionally pursuing peace. And this scripture that we're basing that on is Psalm 34:14. Turn from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. But Jessica, before we start talking about intentionally seeking peace in the workplace, you mentioned it last week that we actually have to have peace at home or peace in ourselves before we go to the workplace. One of the scriptures I think about is that he will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on him. So that's one of my go-tos when I think about, how do you get peace? But talk a little bit, Jessica, about how do we have the peace or obtain the peace that we take into the workplace?
I don't think we can do peace on our own. I think we have to have the Lord. I think it's, our partnership with Jesus and Holy Spirit and the Lord is really where we develop our peace. I think that it's a gift from the Lord. And I think it's, we talked a lot about perspective fuels a lot of our peace, but a lot of times that perspective shift comes from outside of ourselves. And there's a lot of ways we do peace. Part of it is investing in our relationship with the Lord. And oftentimes it's an overflow from the time we've had with the Lord, because I always say God's a one-stop shop. He's your director, he's your doctor, he's your father, he's your brother, he he really is your strategist, all those kinds of things. And so he is your one-stop shop, and your time with him creates the overflow into every part of your life. And the other thing I would say is, we're really big here. All of us specialize in trauma for the most part. We know that we live in a broken world, and none of us is left unaffected, uh, whether that's things we've been through, and sometimes the things we've done to survive may have produced some behaviors in us that we're not overly happy or happy about or happy with. And really, God's a God that really is about healing. Healing is a part of God's process when we know him. It doesn't stop when we accept Jesus.
Right.
I used to tell people I'm in that secondary space where you get to choose, am I really going to let God heal my heart or not? That
Right.
comes after that salvation moment. And because healing really does help bring peace. It helps bring peace to the mind, helps bring peace to our emotions. And when our mind and our emotions are well, it helps our body become more well because they are a unified system. And so I think those are two really big things for me that help us pursue peace that have impact in every area of our life.
Yeah. And for me, like I said, it goes back to that scripture. He keeps in perfect peace the person whose mind is stayed on him. Lisa, a Christian, before we start talking about peace in the workplace, what do the two of you do to uh, get your peace, obtain peace?
I think for me, that starting the day off in the word, centering on, what God has for me that day, and, how can I relay the peace that he's given me to others, is how once I've started doing that, I noticed all my interactions are more, life-giving. They're not confrontational. Whenever a situation, merits being confrontational, not in a mean way, but in a, hey, let's talk about this and work on it. It's more productive than me being coming from a heart of frustration or being wronged. It's more peace seeking for all involved.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Lisa? What do you do to?
My initial thought was, I just let my crazy hang out, but I know that's not what you're looking for. So, um, I personally think that there are a lot of things that happen sometimes in our life that we can't change, that whether it be at work or whether you're driving down the road through San Antonio traffic, there are just some things that you cannot. And I know we're talking about the workplace here, but that's my workplace. I work in my car, I work at home, I work, wherever I'm at. That I have to really put God in his place and let him have that role in my life, because I'm one that likes to take the lead. And so I have to remind myself, like, oh, really back a little bit, let God have that. So recognizing really who he is in my life and submitting to him and giving that to him, because there are lots of things that are hard. And, if you're in the heart and you're focused on the heart and you're trying to take control, you're not going to have peace, because it's his place to give you peace. And so I think just really recognizing who he is and then submitting to that. Do I do it well? Am I still learning? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, aren't we all? Aren't we all? So, we're talking about Psalms 34:14, and going to use another one of Jessica's words. This psalm reminds us that peace in the workplace isn't accidental, it's intentional. And Jessica always reminds us about being intentional. And in many ways, offices or team meeting settings, tension and competition just kind of can rise really, really quickly. And then that leads to misunderstandings. So to seek peace means you've got to choose to step away from those things in the office that would cause turmoil and just stress, and then find ways to speak words that can heal. And pursuing peace takes effort. So, my first question is, what are practical ways that we can choose peace over reaction? And I think that's what Christian was alluding to, over reactionary words or reactionary actions in the workplace. So, what are some practical ways that we can choose peace?
I think first and foremost, we have to make a decision. A lot of times when to avoid reaction versus response, like Christian was talking about, we have to make the decision that I'm going to be responsible for myself, no matter what my emotion is. When we talk about taking thoughts captive and not being ruled by our emotions, like the word says, it doesn't mean our emotions and our thoughts are unimportant. God
Right.
gave both of them to
Right.
us. But what it does mean is I'm going to make an active decision that I'm not going to be completely led by tempered thoughts, and I'm not going to be completely led by my emotions, because I can be really angry and choose not to yell. I can be really angry and choose to take a timeout or give myself a limitation. And that doesn't mean there aren't, that's different than if there's a crisis situation, right? Like that's not what we're totally talking about right now.
Right.
There's a time for those kinds of things. But, if I've got a boss that's, yelling or doing that kind of thing, there may be a space in the moment to set a boundary, but I also may need to walk away. And I'll say this too, you're dealing with different personality types, and I have a lot of C, and Miss Pamela does too on that disc profile, and I get overwhelmed when I get bombarded with information with an expectancy of an immediate response. And that happens even when I'm triggered or when something of my own stuff comes up or someone treats me poorly. I can get very overwhelmed in the moment. So, what I know about stewarding myself is, one, I'm going to give myself permission that I don't have to completely respond right now. I'm going to acknowledge that person, because I will say this: if you're in the middle of a tension or a conflict or, um, that kind of thing, to just ignore it and go silent, that ghost kind of mentality, not going to work. You at least need to
Right.
acknowledge the person by saying, you've said a lot here. I need some time to think about it. Can we schedule another catch up so I can share my thoughts and respond? You've given me a lot of input. You've shared a lot with me. You've given me a lot to think about and consider, but I do have some thoughts, but I need some time to get that together. Could we schedule a catch up? Right? We don't want to just leave that in between space hanging, but it is okay to take that space, especially because a lot of us have personality types that need time to process. um, and in the workplace, sometimes it moves fast, and we can feel like we don't have permission. And that can steal our peace a lot because it goes against our design.
And that ghosting that Jessica is talking about can cause the other person to have the experience of feeling discounted, of feeling as though what it is that they need is not important. And that only fuels whatever discord was already going on. And I was thinking about some other just really practical ways. Some of the things that cause discord in the offices, the water cooler conversations that you have, the gossip. So refuse to engage in the gossip. Walk away from it. This one is hard, and but do not retaliate when criticized. Because here's the thing: when someone criticizes you, I'm not talking about critiquing you like a supervisor providing feedback for you to improve job performance, or I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are just criticizing you and for the bullying kind of criticizing. Just remember that it's not about you. when they criticize you, it really is not about you. It's about whatever their sense of inferiority is, whatever is going on with them. It is not about you. So when someone criticizes you, don't take it personally. Just refuse to retaliate by not taking it personally. And then the other thing that you want to do is find ways to speak words that, and what Jessica just mentioned, you would probably have to step away to do that, because in the moment, you probably aren't able to excavate those healing words from inside yourself. But when you step away, find ways to speak words that bring peace back in the situation. Speak healing words. Before I go ahead, Jess.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on some of the things you said too, Miss Pamela, because it was good. Talking about how we talk about this a lot, like so often people's behaviors towards us are not so much about us. It's about something that it could be that something we've done or said has hit something that's in them. And so one of the ways, last week we talked a lot about turning um, and what it means to shift. And you said something about like when we recognize not to take it personally, that's where we get to go back to the Lord and say, okay, Lord, give me the real eyes to see what's going on here, because there could be something I said, there could be
Discernment.
something I did, but give me the discernment, because I will tell you, when we a lot of times when we can capture the fact that somebody's had a woundedness, and it gives us more compassion. That's part of that turn perspective that God often gives us about other people, because it becomes less about that immediate present day treatment to what is the bigger picture for this person and how can I meet them in it. And that's why that's so important what you said there, because and that's where we can go and meet our Father, meet Jesus, Holy Spirit, and say, give us wisdom and discernment about what is it this person really needs, because sometimes the behavior is not the real need either. Right, the real need is between the lines. And so and our workplace is our place to minister, and so that's something to not be forgetting even as we're pursuing peace. And a couple other things I was thinking when you were saying is, we talk a lot about kill it with kindness. It doesn't mean to be disingenuine, but what does it mean to love people well? Because even if it's counterculture, if you're in a cultural, because every workplace has a culture, and even if you are in a culture that's more toxic, I mean, ultimately you have to pray to the Lord and make big decisions if you're in a really toxic environment and what he is or isn't asking of you in that space. But, if there's a culture that's been set up with gossip or, leadership style that's micromanaging, or you can still demonstrate acts of love in that space, because the environment does have to respond to you, and it will, right? What you bring into an environment, it will respond to you. And so
We shift the atmosphere primarily because Holy Spirit is within us, and
right.
He shifts the atmosphere. Christian, I saw you nodding. Did you have something in particular that wanted to comment on? Or you were just in agreement?
Yeah, in agreement. Jessica said it perfectly, I think.
Back to our scripture, seek peace and pursue it. I think that the phrase "and pursue it" signifies ongoing, active, diligent commitment. Can I say that phrase again? Ongoing, active, diligent commitment. We talked about diligence in one of our acronyms some months back. And for the business owner or the supervisor or the manager, this means continually investing in and implementing strategies that not only mitigate existing stress, but also proactively builds a resilient and peaceful work environment. talked about how can the individual who is the worker practice ways. The next question is also, how can we intentionally pursue peace with coworkers when conflict actually arises? So we're going to go in, we're going to, hopefully by not gossiping, by not, doing those other things that, we're going to get some peace. But sometimes, conflict is going to arise anyway, because you can't have two people in the same place without there being some, little disagreement. And sometimes that disagreement gets to be conflictual, especially in a workplace. So ladies, how can we in the workplace pursue peace when conflict arises?
I think if the manager, obviously you were saying sets the tone, right? I think also as a coworker, we set the tone with our coworkers whenever there's problems that arise, when people are coming to us, and with that gossip, we can choose to take that moment and use it as a ministering, activity. Like, hey, I hear you have this issue and you need to go directly to them. And that's the thing. Jesus pulls us aside and does it in private with his corrections. He doesn't make a public spectacle of it. And that's where we have to be very intentional with our confrontations, that we don't do it to get everybody in trouble. We do it from a heart of, hey, let's truly fix this. Let's truly mend our relationship. Let's truly go forward and allow the presence to grow and learn and restore, not just bash each other and create hostility.
Now, I like that we don't do this publicly. We don't do it in front of other coworkers, especially when there's a peer relationship, right? It only creates more problems when we do it that way. Just because you've been a manager in a workplace, a director of programs, I've been a director. When conflicts arise, how did you intentionally pursue peace when those conflicts arose, or even in the workplace? And for us in mental health, that's really interesting. When we're supposed to know how to do it, but hey,
Yeah.
we have to be intentional as well.
Yes. I think always, this has just been something, I think the way I grew up kind of affected how important this was to me. Is I always check in with myself first. I had a mentor when I was like 18, 19, and she just really helped me. She didn't say these words, but the Lord kind of gave them to me in the process with her job. I always check myself first. And it was part of it came from a word the Lord gave me. I was praying one time about wanting to see some change in some places, and the Lord told me, I want to use you powerfully here, but right now you're my stumbling block. And that totally caught me off guard. Like, because I was doing the best I could with what I had. And that's where I realized, though, that I had to start with myself, because it was a journey for me, because that was a really big thing in my life that the Lord that was what led me to healing and different things like that. But the Lord was able to let me see that even though I hadn't caused some of the initial stuff, my reactions to those things was making it worse. And so it taught me that I had to start with myself first. What am I reacting to in this? And what needs to be addressed about that? And what do I need to address about that privately? Because sometimes, our reactions, God wired our body and our mind to react. It lets us know
Yes.
when things need to be addressed.
Right.
But what I usually do first is take inventory. What part of this is mine that I need to get in check, and that what's left over is what needs to be addressed. So that's always the place I start. But good communication is key. I'll be honest, in general, I don't go into anything with assumptions. I even tell my clients, because I worked a lot with kids, right? Kids so often are like, you're just going to take my parents' side. You're the grown up, da 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 da. And I even tell parents straight in front of my adolescents' faces, like, there are three sides to this story, and I'm going to hear both of yours, and I know the truth is somewhere in the middle, because you both have a perspective of this that's highly emotional, but the truth is somewhere in the middle. And so and I let parents and kids alike know, like, I'm looking at both sides of the equation. I'm not just deciding or assuming one thing or another. I'm not letting age determine. I'm not letting, power and position determine that. I'm going to take in the information and we're going to make the best plan. And um, so in the
So one
workplace,
of the
it's the same
ways,
thing.
so one of the things you're saying is that in order to deal with this conflict in the workplace, you've got to get clarification.
Mhm.
Got to really clarify what the actual issue is. And the other thing you said is something that I often tell individuals is, if you don't get a resolution to whatever the conflict is within 15 to 20 minutes, somebody call a timeout and go to your different, your separate corners. And while you're in your separate corners, don't think about, when I go back in and have this conversation, I'm going to say this, this, and this about what that person did. No, it's what Jessica pointed out. Look at yourself, do some introspection. What is it that I could do differently in this situation? What is it that I need to take responsibility for? Go back and say, you're absolutely right. I own this part, right? So by acknowledging that the individual isn't the only one that is responsible for everything that happened, that causes them to be more receptive to resolving the conflict, and yeah, moving forward in that way.
I think the one other thing I'm really, really intentional about is I listen for the need, because again, sometimes the words or the behaviors are not always fully indicating. So I'm always asking the Lord, like, help me with the discernment. Like, what is this person saying? And what are they saying without saying?
Right.
Or what are they
Right.
not saying that's really the need? Because really part of the resolution is going to come, all behavior is really because there's a need underneath it. And so
Right.
when you can really learn as a manager or an owner, like, how do I learn to foster skills to listen to the need, or even ask good questions to get to the need? You can develop both. Communication's two-sided. I can learn skills of speaking and learn skills of listening that help me acquire that skill of how do I discern the need.
Yeah, and as an owner, I'm not going to take people for granted. I'm going to uh, um, trust them that they know what their need is. Trust them that they know how being in uh, the workplace environment is impacting them, and thus impacting their job performance, and actually impacting my bottom line. So it behooves me, if I want my bottom line, to stay on the black side of the ledger as opposed to the red side of the ledger. It behooves me to help people resolve conflict in the working place and to find peace in the working place. Lisa, you're nodding. You agree?
I just agree. Yeah.
Yeah. This verse begins with, so I talked about the and pursue it, but it begins with turn from evil and do good. So let's talk about what evil looks like in the workplace. It might not be dramatic wrongdoing. It might be really subtle, like cutting sarcasm or refusal to collaborate with somebody. Might not even say, I'm not going to work with this person. Might actually go to the team meeting, but not give any inputs. Might actually go to the project meeting, but not work on the project, right? So that um, subtle negativity. So to intentionally pursue peace, we must turn away from harmful habits and cultivate a culture of encouragement, offering help rather than criticism, and seeking solutions rather than blaming. So, what habits or attitudes might one need to turn from so that peace can flourish around the network? And I didn't think about this when I was formulating the question earlier, but not only turn from, so not only what attitudes must they turn from, but what attitudes would be helpful for them to um, develop in order for there to be peace flourishing in the workplace.
I think one thing is we have to stop taking ourselves so seriously and, don't take everything personal. You have to calm down and I think everybody builds those walls, right? It's okay to take some walls down. Stop being on the defense. Look for the positive. I think just having that positive mind shift helps you interact in a different way.
So developing a positive mind shift and letting go of that defensive.
Yeah, the personal attack syndrome.
Right. Jessica?
The church that I've worked with in my counseling, there's a pastor there that he always comes back to this, like as a leader of staff, like as a leader in ministry. And he said, we live in a broken world and we are dealing with wounded people all the time, including ourselves. And he said he just always just keeps saying, assume positive intent, because our woundedness does not allow us to do that. Because the way our system's wired is something happens to us, our brain puts up this, like, takes in that data and goes, these things can potentially be unsafe if they happen in the future. So that's where that wall comes in that Christian was just talking about. And we develop behaviors out of that and beliefs, like as those things happen, if they happen repetitively. And so we have all this data about how we could get hurt or why we need to be on guard. We call it hypervigilance, right? And the brain is wired to scan for the negative to keep us alive. A lot of people don't know that. And so we have to be intentional about, how do I assume positive intent? That's a very intentional thing. We can heal, which helps our brain not be so hypervigilant, more than it's meant to be. But there's so much research about that we're scanning for those things already. So we have to be very intentional, instead of going, if my natural inclination is, oh, well, this person's just out to get me, or that behavior may hurt me, or, you know, I may not look as valuable, or somebody's taken. But if I come to something and I assume, like, this person is my teammate and they are for me, that doesn't mean they always are. You may find more evidence, and there may be, if you go down the road and pursue the things, but then you set the good boundaries and you deal with the conflict resolution. But if I set an attitude and a habit of, I'm going to assume positive intent, it changes, just like we talked about that turn, it gives me a different perspective of how I'm receiving the data. I can't tell you. This is one of the things that drives me nuts even about Facebook. People get on Facebook and they read posts and they're like, "Oh, that's about me," or "This is," are you kidding? I'm gonna tell you, most people in their life are not spending
Not thinking
quite that
about
much
you.
time being preoccupied. We are very self-focused creatures, right? And that could have just spoke to them. And don't be wrong, do people use that to be keyboard warriors against people? Yes, that happens. I'm not denying that. But in general, if we assume positive intent, then I'm not immediately harmed by this thing that I just read, or that email that just went out, or that coworker made a comment, a dig about using blue ink, and I'm the only, I'm one of two people in the office that use. okay. It could just be a personal preference. And that's not to minimize when there are real things happening. But one of the ways we help ourselves not get our whole system up and going and on guard is I can assume the positive, right?
Right,
And from there, if I gather more data and a problem exists, then I address it, right?
right, absolutely. So, our final conversation. So, peace in the workplace isn't a one-time effort. It's something you pursue. Seek peace and pursue. It's something you pursue to keep chasing at. To continual action. When challenges arise, this deadline, a team's meeting, the supervisor, peace is tested. So, final conversation. How can we sustain a daily mindset, pursuing peace, even when workplace pressures increase? How can we sustain a daily mindset, pursuing peace, even when workplace pressure increases? So for me, like I'm in private practice, so it's me and my clients. I do have interns that I supervise, but for me, um, as pressures mount, it's just that self care. Take time to take a break, walk away from the desk. Legally, workplaces have to give you 15-minute breaks. I think 2 15-minute breaks if it's an 8-hour day. It's been a long time since I worked, in a corporate setting, but if I remember correctly, it's 2 15-minute breaks and a minimum of a 30-minute lunch, and most people give you an hour lunch. Take them. Take them. Don't sit at your desk through your lunch. Go away.
I absolutely agree.
Don't sit at your desk through your break. Go away. Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I've been in corporate America for, the past 13 years, and I feel like people get caught up in like, well, they're just trying to get that next promotion or they want to get their work done and they work through that. You're doing more damage. You're not productive. You're not coming with a fresh brain. You're not able to maintain you may be a super nice person, but 8 hours every single day, every year that you're there, you are hurting yourself and you're going to start hurting others. Like you said, take a break, walk away, sit it down.
Go drink some water.
Well, and I'll add to this. If you're not doing those things, you actually set yourself up to start building your own resentment. Because when we start working through our breaks and things like that, we start having these subtle resentments. See, I just work all the time and this demands all my time. Like it starts building a narrative, even though we're the ones who made choices not to take those opportunities. And so it's different if you're working with somebody who's not giving you those opportunities. There's
Right.
laws about that. And, but one of the things I was thinking as soon as you read this question was I thought about my morning routine before I ever get to work and how important it is to set the stage of my day, right? Like, did I get up and, did I have a little prayer time or journal time? And some of us don't, we start so early, we can't always do that, but I at least try to pray. When I worked at the hospital, I had an hour drive to work. I prayed the whole way most days. I worked psych hospitals are tough places, like I spent my time preparing my mind, my heart, because I knew what I was walking into. I knew some of the stuff that would want to bubble up in me, the stress about certain cases or things like that. And I would just try to meet the Lord before I ever got to work on the way to work, right? Did I give myself permission? Listen, I'm not an everyday have to have coffee, but there is a comfort in a cup of coffee for me. I love sitting down with a big old mug and just being able to take 5 hot sips of my coffee in peace. But it sets the tone for my day when I can do that, right? And so the routine of our day is so critical. And those breaks and things, movement and nutrition are important. How are you managing your movement and nutrition? You have physical, our bodies are not actually designed to sit all day. One of the things we
Right.
saw in the Industrial Revolution and into this more modern perspective of work is our bodies are having to adjust to, we look at screens, we're not getting the movement that we used to, and that affects our mood. It affects our frustration levels. We're exposed to a lot more things that physically we were designed to have a lot more movement, a lot more natural light, things like that. And so tending to those things are absolutely critical because hangry is a real thing. And it shows up in the workplace too. Okay. So
Yeah, I
even
mean, that's one of the things in the 12-step communities, right? About one of the ways to ensure you stay sober or don't have a relapse is that acronym HALT. Don't get too
Mhm,
angry, I mean, too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired.
mhm.
That's the same thing about ensuring there's peace in your workplace, right? Uh, that's one of the ways that you can pursue peace.
I
Go
think
ahead,
being
Christian.
being self-aware, because if you're not self-aware, then none of this is going to help you, right?
Right.
You gotta keep in check and know your limits, know if you've rested, and be able to take that.
And I'll add this too. Take your vacations. Like, a lot of people are really bad about, well, they can't do it without me, or it's just gonna get behind, or you know what? You may have to do the extra work when you get back because somebody dropped the ball while you were gone. But your mind and your body, there's a reason vacation time exists, and you need to take your vacation. It really, from the beginning of your year, the best thing you could do for yourself is plan, when am I gonna take my vacations? When am I taking my breaks? Um, because then everybody's aware. It's already set in stone, and your mind and your body need that.
Here's a hard reality. If you die today,
They're gonna do it
work would
without you.
go on tomorrow.
Mhm. Yep.
And that sounds hard, but it's reality.
Yes.
So like Jessica said, right, plan it so that supervisor knows, manager knows. Yeah. Please put this on the calendar.
Yeah.
This is what it needs.
And I'm just gonna reiterate, I know we've talked about it, but to sustain the daily mindset, you create a lifestyle of peace. It's what helps you to maintain the daily, right? Like, I'm not going to get long term healthy by managing one day. I get long term
Right.
healthy by, I have a perspective, an overarching goal, and I manage it day by day. And peace is
Yes.
kind of the same way. Do I have a lifestyle or a perspective of peace? And it's those things. And I know I'm reiterating, but how am I fostering a relationship with the Lord? How am I fostering my healing journey? Because we do live in a broken world. How do I be intentional about managing the stuff that's coming into my mind and my heart? You know, the stuff that I have control of and the stuff that other people are affecting. Being intentional about those two things is really critical about that lifestyle management of peace. And that coincides with joy and trust and faith. And those things are all counterparts together. So, um, really important to, what does it look like? And even to play. God gave us
Yes.
work, but he gave us play.
Rest and
um,
relaxation
yes.
are
And
vital to emotional and mental.
and relationship, am I having community in both places? Your community outside of work sometimes helps carry the load at work because there are different boundaries for different kinds of relationships. We don't always have the same depth of relationship with people at work. I don't think it's realistic that we don't build good relationships with people at work because we spend so much time with them that we can get quite close to them. But sometimes there are still boundaries that are appropriate in workplaces. But community is important. How does your community outside of work look so that you are alleviating some of that stress and have that support? And what does your community at work look like? Do you guys ever go get dinner together and just have a conversation that's not always
Not work
work
related.
focused, with appropriate boundaries? We're not going to trauma dump on people at work or, put unrealistic expectations on each other personally, but do I get to know you? It helps to bring personhood to the person that I'm working with, right?
And again, I want to leave with this intentional. You have to intentionally pursue peace. I said to a client yesterday, she was talking about she she was hearing it and having an intellectual understanding of how to enter into a healing process. But she was like, I'm trying, but I just can't. And, I had to say, you have to be willing to submit to the healing process. You have to be willing to submit to pursuing peace. It's about intention.
I have to say something. So I'm sitting here.
And you take it out because we have to.
I'll take it out. So, what I'm hearing from you guys, it is very much an individual responsibility. Like, it is our responsibility to take inventory of what we're thinking, what we're doing, how we're feeling. It's our responsibility to make sure we take the breaks. It's our responsibility to take the vacations. It's our responsibility to have the hard conversations. It's our responsibility, if you have a performance report, to speak up about some things. It's a personal responsibility. And so it's so funny. He has not said one word until I don't know if y'all can hear him, but he's screaming in the background. So like, we have to take that personal responsibility to do that. How is it, like, what are some tools that we can do to help with that? Like, do we write a list of how we think and how we are, our personality? Like, how can we mesh that together to take that responsibility? Like, yes, I know that I need to pursue this. How do I pursue that? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask.
Well, one thing I'll say, and I don't want to be a broken record, but I will always preach this, because when we've experienced trauma distorts responsibility. When we've been harmed in some way, it distorts that somebody put their stuff on us, or they made us responsible for something about them. And that gets wired into our belief system some. And that's one of the reasons why healing is so important, because it helps us heal in the brain about, this is my responsibility, this is their responsibility, which does show up in the workplace a lot. You see that with blaming, like a lot of blaming, that's a survival response. When blaming a lot of times is, I'm not able to take that personal responsibility, whether somebody blamed me a lot or it was the way I learned to survive when I was being blamed a lot, so healing is critical in that, because so often the things that have happened to us is what distorts healthy responsibility and our perspective of responsibility. One of the biggest things I work with my trauma clients about is, you didn't own that person doing that behavior, making that choice, that didn't belong to you, but here's what you are responsible for, right? I am responsible for my thoughts, my body, my emotions, and my behaviors that overflow from that. And so I think to your question, if we're in that space, because we're all somewhere in the middle of that journey, right? It doesn't mean I may not get it perfect right now, but one thing I can do is I stop and ask, who is responsible for this? What part of this do I own? What part of it do I have no control over? Like, if a boss does come to me and say, well, you should have done this report and I need this and da 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 da, like, whatever that looks like, I'm going to go, what part of this do I own? I own to get this part of the project done, this part of the project, this, but then I'm going to take inventory of that. Well, I can't do this part of my project unless my boss gives me this information or does this. He's upset about that, but I don't, he's yelling at me about this thing, but I don't own that. That was a responsibility of another department. And that just helps mentally start creating. It's kind of like backtracking our way into it, but it's being able to learn to take inventory of who owns what part of this. And as you heal, that gets a little easier because you start going, that's mine, that's not mine. But
And in terms of healing, you can always reach out for counseling. And for those of you who are in the corporate workplace, most workplaces have employee assistance programs. So reach out to HR and see about your employee assistance program, how many free sessions they will allow you to have with a therapist, and go get some counseling to sort of help you do what Jessica just talked about, figure out what part is mine and what part is someone else's. And, yeah.
That's great. And I even yesterday on Take Charge Tuesday, I mentioned that, you may have to have people walk you through some things, you may have to come to that point. And I came to my breaking point because you can't stack boxes on the shelves and they stay there all the time. Sometimes they're going to fall on your face. And so it would be good of us, not good of it. It would be best for us if we would recognize that right now in the season that we're in and seek the help, because we need to normalize that. We need to normalize that it's okay to ask help. It's okay to get a coach. It's okay to get a counselor. Like that is healthy and good. It's not bad to do that. So,
well,
okay.
and I'll say this too. We're designed to live in community. There are times when we definitely need counseling and coaching and to go to that point in our healing journey. But sometimes too, if we're not sure about responsibility, that's what good accountability friends are for, right? Like if I have mentors and things like that, like it's one of the reasons why they talk about having mentors when you're married, like having somebody who can check in and go, what part of this do I own and what part do I maybe don't own, and where do we need, like that's where community is really helpful too. Having good, safe people, not to a space to go gossip about the problems, but a safe people to go, I'm in the middle, I'm healing. I recognize I've got blind spots. Here's what happened. What part of this do I own? Help me identify from your perspective. Where are you seeing that I have some ownership that I might not be seeing? That community can also be a really good, helpful space with safe people. Obviously not the masses. And that's not meant to become we're going to dump it all on you, but we can start to test some of that too, because other people can see people who love and care about us may see our blind spots, which is again part of that healing process. A lot of times if we have stuff not healed, a lot of times we can have a wall to it. Our brains are just wired that way. And so it's good to have good, healthy people, right? Like I've got 3 to 5 really key people in my life that I can go and say, where was I wrong? Help me see this situation. Like, what do I own in this? What do I need to do? So that's another key in that too, in that process.
That's really good.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, I wanted just real quick, mental check-ins while you're healthy too. Don't wait for it to become a trauma response, but do it ongoing so you stay away from that. Sorry, it came to me and I was like, yes, Lord. So
No, you're fine. We love that. We love that. I'm going to try to get
That's
through
good.
the announcements without the Judester microphone going off. So we are so excited to have Christian with us today, but she's also going to be with us on Saturday for our members benefit training. So every month we provide a benefit training to our members and our sponsors. It is one of the very few outings or activities that we have at GCBN that is members only. We open a lot of our things up to everybody, but this one is exclusive to our members. And so Christian's going to be talking with us on Saturday about stewarding finances with faith, focus, and financial wisdom. So we want you to be here on Saturday, 9:30 to 10:15. If you register on our website, we also have a link on our Facebook page. You can register and you'll get the link to join us on Zoom at 9:30. Well, you'll get it before 9:30, but we'll see you 9:30 on Saturday. We also have God Golf and Girls coming up. We are 22 days away from God Golf and Girls. I can't believe it. That's it's like it happened so fast. It was like 6 months ago, and I was like, I'm ready for it to be here. And now it's 22 days. So today is the last day to get your overnight ticket. If you have a friend that's wanting a ticket, if you have somebody on the fence, you need to ring them up, email them, call them, whatever it is, and get them to get their ticket today. Miss Jessica, Dr. Jess will be connecting with the venue this afternoon. I think she said around 4. So she's going to be connecting with them. So if you have people that are on the fence, they need to get their ticket before then. We will be there August 15th through the 17th, and we do have day tickets as well, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or you can do a multitude, you can do Friday and Saturday or Friday and Sunday or whatever it is. Our colors are black, white, and gold, or white, black, and gold is I think how we wrote it out. So on Friday night for our Friday night party, it's so fun. It's beautiful. So you can dress in any of those colors, all of those colors, pick one of those colors, however you want to do that. But that's our theme because it's our 10th anniversary. Jude keeps peeking in on me there. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, prayer call on Monday. You guys can connect with Chrissy and Beth and all the ladies that come on the prayer call on Monday. It's 9 o'clock Eastern. That is also located on our Facebook page. You can get the call information there. Or if you don't know, just reach out and we'll get it to you. Pray for Beth and the team there at the NACWE conference this week, the all-in conference that Heather and the NACWE team is doing in Arizona. So pray for them. And I think that's all that I have. Next week, we're going to have Sabrina Reynolds' husband, Lou Reynolds, on with us on Take Charge Tuesday. So you'll want to make sure you block that off and come join us for that time. And I think that's it. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here with us today, sharing your wisdom, being our cheerleaders and our counselors. And we're just so thankful for all that God's doing in your life. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.